Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to continue with Frindle by Clements. And today we're going to read chapter 13. If you remember, this book has 15 chapters, so we have 2 more chapters to go. And we finished with chapter 12, which I had divided into 2 parts because it was too long. And so the end of chapter 12, we left off where we learned that Bud Lawrence was going to make some merchandise using the word Frindle, but he had to ask permission from Nick's dad. And he said that he was going to give 30% of his earnings to Nick because the word belongs to Nick. And Nick's dad was okay with that. He says he didn't want to deal with it anymore. He says, yeah, fine, 30%, whatever. And but he did tell him one thing. He says, I want this to be between you and me. Don't tell Nick about it. So Bud Lawrence said, sure. And so Nick's dad was happy not to have to deal with any of that, of anything that had to do with Frindle. And so when he left from Bud's place and going back, let me reread that the last paragraph from chapter 12, so that just kind of refreshed our memory before I start on chapter 13. And it says, as Nick's dad walked slowly back to the hardware store, he wondered if things were ever going to be the same again in his quiet little town. And we left off thinking about that too. Are things going to die down? Are things going to fade away like Mrs. Granger has predicted? So that's what Nick's dad was thinking. He was thinking, I wonder if the things are going to be the same in his quiet little town. Let's find out today. So today's chapter 13 is called Ripples, okay? R-I-P-P-L-E-S, ripples. And maybe you heard the word before, ripples. Actually, my pool back there, it's probably kind of hard for you to see, but it's making some little ripples. Not too much, but a little bit. It's kind of hard for you to see, but usually in the oceans is where in the ocean is kind of like where you see ripples. Ripples has to do with waves. You know how waves move and move. And so, but actually if I was to throw a rock on my pool right now, it will probably make some ripples. I'm not gonna do that. So ripples are like, it makes a wave. It makes, if you throw a rock, like if you're at the beach and you throw a rock, it makes movement. And so think about that, like why would this chapter be called ripples? Like movements or like little by little? So I want you to pay close attention and maybe in the end figure out like, why is this chapter called ripples? Okay, so here we go, chapter 13, ripples. But life did settle. Life did settle back to normal in Westfield. Right away, first sentence, it says, life did settle back to normal in Westfield. More leaves fell, Thanksgiving came, then the first snow, then Christmas, and more snow. Fall and winter seemed to calm everything down and drive everyone into their own houses. It was pretty calm. Thanksgiving came, Christmas came, it was snowing. Remember that New Hampshire, it's very cold and it snows. And it seemed like everyone went into their houses and they were just chilling. Things were calmer at Lincoln Elementary School too. Frindle mania was over. Frindle mania was over, but that didn't mean the word was gone. Not at all. Let's see. All the kids and even some of the teachers used the new word. At first, it was on purpose. Then it became a habit. And by the middle of February, Frindle was just a word like door or tree or hat. People in Westfield barely noticed it anymore. So it was normal, like everybody was using the word Frindle and it was normal to them now, just like that you use the word door and the word tree and the word hat. It was normal and it became a habit. You see, when you do things over and over and over, it becomes a habit, like you do it all the time, okay? It's a routine. And so using the word Frindle became normal. But in the rest of the country, things were hopping. Frindle was on the move, right? Remember the title, Ripple? So Frindle was on the move. Frindle was on the move. In hundreds of little towns and big cities from coast to coast, kids were using the new word, and parents and teachers were trying to stop it. What had happened in Westfield happened over and over again. So in Westfield, it's normal now to use the word Frindle. But after the news, remember that after the last chapter when we read about 200 million, all those people that were able to watch TV, right? Then the word kept moving to other little towns, and parents and teachers were trying to stop it. What had happened in Westfield happened over and over and over again. But Lawrence couldn't have been happier. Remember, cha-ching for him. He's a businessman and investor. There were Frindle shirts and sunglasses and erasers and notebooks and paper and dozens of other items. Wow, remember? So he had t-shirts and then sunglasses, erasers, notebooks, all kinds of stuff with Frindle. The new line of Frindles imported from Japan were a big hit. And now there was a talk of selling them in Japan and Europe as well. The checks that went into Nick's trust fund got bigger and bigger. Remember, his trust fund is the money that he has in the bank where Bud Lawrence deposits the money. And remember, 30% of all the earnings go into his bank account for savings for college. Bud opened his own factory in Westfield to make Frindle baseball caps. So it's getting so big in other places that people are ordering things. And now Bud is making baseball caps. That would be so cool to have a baseball cap and it says Frindle and maybe like with a pen or something. Again, another idea. How would that baseball cap look like, right, with Frindle in it? That would be interesting for you to draw as well. But this, because he had to open a factory in Westfield to make those baseball caps, he also created jobs for 22 people. I want you to grasp that and kind of think about this for a moment. Because of this boy named Nick, who came up with this idea of calling the pen a Frindle, now 22 people have a job. Like people who probably didn't have a job before have a job because they're working at Bud Lawrence's factory where they're going to be making baseball hats. Isn't that interesting? Think about that for a moment. Because of this great idea that this boy had, Nick, 22 people have a job. Interesting, right? And in March, the town council voted to put up a little sign on the post below the town's name along Route 302. It said, "Home of the original Frindle." Wow, that's another interesting thing. Let me reread that again. Look what happened. The city, right, the town, voted, and they decided that they were going to put up a little sign on the post below the town's name along Route 302. They were going to put a sign that said, "Home of the original Frindle." What that means is, like, have you ever seen, like when you're on the freeway and you see the signs that says, how many miles to the next city or to the next street, or there's a sign that says, "Welcome to California," or "Welcome to Arizona," wherever you go. But right under it, they were going to put a sign that said, "Home of the original Frindle." All thanks to who? Nick. Let me show you that picture and how it looks. So it says, "Welcome to Westfield," and then right under it, it says, "Home of the original Frindle." Let me show you how that looks. You see? Welcome to Westfield. home of the original Frindle. Okay, so that's what they decided to do. So it's a lot happening because of one boy's great idea. Because this boy listened to his teacher, and whatever that teacher was teaching is working out. Well, let's see what else happens. So the city, the little town, decided to put a little sign right under the post that says home of the original Frindle. That's awesome. And Mrs. Granger, well, she seemed to have given up. Or perhaps she had been ordered to. That's interesting. No one knew. So Mrs. Granger has kind of given up maybe, or maybe she was ordered to do so by the principal or by the superintendent, right? Like they probably said, stop keeping the kids after school or else. So she had to stop. Her poster about the forbidden word had quietly disappeared from the bulletin by the office. And kids were not staying after school writing sentences anymore. It was business as usual, except for one thing. Everyone in 5th grade got at least one word wrong on his or her spelling test each week. That's interesting. Let's see why. Everyone in 5th grade got at least one word wrong on his or her spelling test each week. Every week, the first word at the top of Mrs. Granger's list was pen. Like, how do you spell pen? Well, that's easy, right? You know how to spell pen. P-E-N. It's a spelling test, so spell pen. P-E-N. But why do you think that every week the 5th grade students got the word pen wrong? Did you guess? Let me read it to you. Every week, the first word at the top of Mrs. Granger's list was pen, and each Friday during the spelling test, every kid spelled F-R-I-N-D-L-E, Frindle. They didn't write pen, they wrote Frindle. And of course, then Mrs. Granger marked it wrong because the word was pen, and they wouldn't write pen, they would write Frindle. Nick was sort of a celebrity for a while. Remember, he was like a superhero and he didn't like it. He felt shy and awkward. He was sort of like a celebrity for a while. Everyone has seen him on The Late Show and Good Morning America and 2 or 3 other TV shows. Because remember, people wanted to interview him. Remember when he came out in the news? So he went on The Late Show. He went on Good Morning America and 2 or 3 other TV shows. His friends, John and Chris, and all of his other friends kept asking about what it was like to ride in a limousine. After a week or 2, though, it was old news, and everyone seemed to forget about it and moved on. The only person who couldn't quite forget about everything was Nick. And actually, that's the end of chapter 13. But I wonder why the author wrote this last sentence. Let me reread it again. The only person who couldn't quite forget about everything was Nick. Why can't Nick forget? And what is it that Nick can't forget? Is it the day that he started by, thinking of this word Frindle, or what is it? Because it says the only person who couldn't quite forget about everything was Nick. That's a good thinking. I'm going to leave you with that. And so that's the end of chapter 13. Don't forget to answer the questions. And I will see you next time. Bye, boys and girls.